We have the mayor for the city of Lake Ozark, Dennis Newberry. And Mayor, I know it has been busy for you guys, and I know you got huge meetings coming up, a lot to be settled, but I want to talk about overall, since you got into the mayor position, boy, have there been a lot of changes. Let's talk about some of those.
There certainly have been. We have 3 new Board of Aldermen that came in April with this past election. David Ridgely, Krista Watts, and Sherry Jackson, all local Lake Ozark residents, longtime residents, who I hardly knew. But those 3 came on board this year. As you know, we've got Harrison Fry now as our city administrator. We had David Mitchum in for 1 year. Of course, that's all he signed up for, basically was a 1, maybe 2 year. But due to some health reasons with his wife, he was unable to stay with us another year. So Harrison's now in that spot as our city administrator. And boy, has Harrison been stepping up. I think that being in the secondary spot prohibited Harrison from really being able to blossom. But he can handle a big workload, and I'm putting it on him, and he's producing. You look at our agenda at our December 13th meeting, and it's probably the longest agenda that we've ever had.
So you're happy with City Administrator Harrison
Oh,
Fry?
Absolutely.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Harrison's got a great skill set, great personality. He works well with anyone, and couldn't be happier with him.
And I know also we're a new judge, Chief Launderville set to retire. And so just so many changes with the city of Lake Ozark. So with all the newness, Mayor Newberry, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Is that a mix of both? I mean, how do you view all the newness?
Well, newness, I think it's human nature to some degree push back from change.
Yeah.
Because it's oftentimes worrisome for those that are affected by change. But what's happening in our community, in Lake Ozark specifically, a new city judge, for instance, Rochelle winning the Camden County Prosecuting Attorney's position was a huge win for our community overall.
Yeah,
we couldn't be happier for that. Even though we've lost her in Lake Ozark, I know that's better calling for her in our community. But we've got Ryan Bridges that will be our upcoming municipal judge. So that'll be, again, another new position with a new face. You're aware that our chief, Gary Launderville, is retiring at the end of this year. So we have applicants that we have vetted their applications. We're going to be asking those top 3 candidates to come in this Friday, and we will be interviewing those folks and picking a new chief.
So down to 3.
Yes.
Can I ask, did you guys try to stay local within, or did you open up more of a broad search?
It was
for
a
the
fairly
chief?
broad search.
Yeah.
We did similar to what we did with this city administration position. You know, as you know, a year and a half ago, that was a little bit of a challenge to get through that process, but we created a committee. We've created a committee to determine who's going to be our next chief. And that committee is, you know, a lot of our internal staff and a couple of business owners that are weighing in on that. But I'm confident the 3 that we've got, all 3 would be an unbelievable chief, and look forward to being able to get a new chief in and kind of start the slate over, so to speak. There's some baggage that comes with anybody that's been on for a long time, and I'm not suggesting that with Chief Launderville, but I'm just saying the city as a whole. And I think that when you can hit the reset button with a lot of new faces, it's just easier.
Yeah. Gotcha. Very good. Okay, so and this is kind of a weird interview, kind of unfair to you, because we have you coming in on a Tuesday when we record our Wednesday through Tuesday show, but your meeting is coming up tonight, and so we won't know, talking in this interview, what exactly happened, but you can plug into your mayor Facebook page and the city's Facebook page, I would imagine, for updates from tonight. But before we can even tell you that, I mean, all the buzz is about nightly rentals around Lake Ozark. And so we've seen that, and there's been meetings, and planning and zoning's gotten involved. So can you catch us up on what it currently looks like in Lake Ozark for nightly rentals and what it may look like for nightly rentals?
Sure. Approximately 8-9 years ago, the city adopted an ordinance that restricts nightly rentals in R1 and R2 zoned districts within Lake Ozark. And that ordinance, I think, falsely misinformation that's out there has been justified that we really had a problem in Lake Ozark with nightly rentals, 8, 10 years ago. I don't believe we did. I was here. I was a business owner. I don't recall any issues with nightly rentals in Lake Ozark. In fact, we're the only community in the entire lake region that has this restriction. Osage Beach doesn't, Camdenton doesn't, none of our sister cities have it. But what it was is we had an alderman at the time who was in the hospitality industry, and he felt that nightly rentals in residential homes was competition for him. And so that's how the ordinance actually got into play. So you think about the history of that, and you take into consideration that some of our residents' concerns. Hey, I have those concerns too. The safety of our citizens, the safety of my family and our subdivision, our neighbors, certainly something that we take serious, and that is at the top of our list of things that we want to make sure that we're responsible for. But to suggest that nightly rentals in a tourist town, the restriction of nightly rentals in a tourist town seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. Nightly rentals are one of the largest growing, and for Lake of the Ozarks, going to be one of the largest sectors in revenue generating streams of income. I mean, there's so many, and so many people are investing. And when you have a restriction like this, it greatly impacts the real estate market in that area and the investment potential for people, correct?
Yes, it certainly does. Nightly rentals, there's no tracking of it. The county doesn't have it. The city of Lake Ozark doesn't have it. None of our sister cities have it. So it's hard to put a finite number to it and say, well, this is the impact. This is the financial plus or even the negatives, because we don't track how many complaints we have on a nightly rental. We don't track how many police or EMS or fire departments are called out in response to a problem at a nightly rental property. But I did speak to Osage Beach city planner, city administrator, chief of police, and the mayor of Osage Beach, all four in separate conversations. They weren't all in a group setting. It was individual conversations. Of course, I know them all. Known the city planner since he took the job 20-some years ago. And I just believe absolutely what they told me is true, and they say they just simply don't have any problems with nightly rentals. Now, is there the one-off? Sure. There can be a one-off occasion with anything in life.
Correct.
But do you create laws and ordinances based on the rare
1% of reality?
No, you can't.
Right.
You can't do that as a society, or you will govern yourself out of business.
Can I ask? So with currently now, there's a restriction on nightly rentals in Lake Ozark. So what happens is people want to stay close to the strip, but they can't. So they're forced to go stay in another city or town close to Lake Ozark, meaning those cities are getting the tax dollars for that nightly rental, correct?
Well, again, that's a misconception. In the state of Missouri, we do not have a taxing platform for nightly rentals and residential property. We have authorization and the rights to tax lodging entities, hotels, motels, resorts, and houseboats are even in that legislation. I'm not quite sure why, but residential was not put in that state statute. So the taxes that are being collected are voluntary. We got a response back from the Department of Revenue recently that said that those were voluntary payments and they are being forwarded to us. But because of state statute, I can't even share with our citizens or the population of the community at large what those numbers are. I'm not even aware of what they are.
Is Missouri alone in that statute, or is that common? I mean, that seems very odd that nightly rentals you wouldn't be able to generate any sales tax or revenue on.
It does. But I think that as we've evolved and the lodging industry has changed, it's just something that was never thought of previously. Yeah. Certain states have enacted some sort of tax. I think that's something that Missouri should consider, especially for markets like Lake of the Ozarks, not just Lake Ozark, and even Branson and other markets in Missouri, because we are a big tourist state. And it's a big challenge for me and our staff. I've asked our administrator many times, find me some money.
Yeah.
Let's look at what we can cut. But when you have millions of visitors that visit, Lake Ozark and our sister communities on an annual basis, and they use our streets and our sewer and water systems, but they don't foot the bill for those.
Right.
They're paying for the products and services that they're enjoying while they're here, and their sales tax, of course, that goes along with that. And that sales tax is certainly a big number. But when the residents are stuck with paying for the roads and sewer and water systems, and in our town we've got 90 miles of that, it's not real equitable. So potentially short-term rentals could be a possibility if we could hold hands with our adjoining sister cities and go to our state legislators
to create some of that extra
maybe we
funding.
could, yes.
Now, Mayor, I gotta we're gonna have to wrap up just because we're short for time. This is what happens when you're so busy after being elected. That this is our first interview since you've been elected, and so we need to do this more often.
You got 5 things on my list here, and we've only talked about one subject.
11 minutes in, and you had 8 minutes for the interview. This is how well we can talk when we get together. We need to do this again. Last thing before I let you go. I saw that it was illegal to throw candy during parades in Lake Ozark. Is that potentially going to be changing soon?
It is. We have an ordinance that says you cannot throw candy. I think that, we had good people with good intentions a few years back when they created that ordinance, and they were concerned about the safety of our children. Hey, I am too. I've got 2 daughters. I'm a
The one's tearing it
uncle.
up for the school, the Osage Indians girls basketball team. Dropped like 30 points the other night.
Yes.
Had to give her a plug, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Alyssa scored 26 points last night in the game. Camdenton hosted Soto last night, so I'm very
Gets
proud
it from
of her.
her mother, I can promise you that.
She definitely gets her looks from her mother. But back to the candy throwing. Yes, the ordinance is in place, and I'm seeking to have that ordinance repealed. And based on the popularity of a recent poll, it was about 99% of the residents and/or general population believe that
So
should
don't
be
fret,
repealed.
kids. The candy is going to be coming back soon if this man follows through on his promises, because that's important, man. People want that candy thrown. Last, before I let you go, what can people doing watching right now, the average citizen or viewer, do to stay informed, get involved, and maybe assist the efforts of city leadership?
Well, look, as a local real estate broker here for nearly 30 years, I'm very approachable. You can find me online. I've got a mayor Facebook page. The city has social media. You can email us. You can call me. But I'm very approachable about any matter, so feel free to contact me or Harrison at City Administration's office.
I know you don't like me to say this. I want to remind you all, this guy works for free for you, for us, so don't forget that.